Happy Friday, everyone.
Yay! Happy Friday. Hey, Kelly, good to see you.
You too, David. It's been
How was your week?
2 weeks.
That's
It
right.
was
We
good.
took last week off. We were
We
both
did.
busy and stuff. I had people coming into the apartment to do repairs and things. It was very stressful.
Super stressful.
I had to move my whole office because they wanted to do something with the windows, and this desk is pushed up against the windows, so I had to computer, the wires, the lights, the cameras, everything had to get dismantled. But we're back and it all works.
Yay.
Yeah. So how was your week?
It was busy. It's like, it was so nice having Monday off. But then I feel like I just jam-packed all of the hours of work I would have done Monday into Tuesday, Wednesday, and yesterday. So,
I feel like I've done a full week of work, even though it wasn't a full week.
right.
Is,
But it's good. I feel like I accomplished a lot. So that's the thing.
awesome. All right. You ready to welcome our guest?
Yes. So excited.
Yeah. Hey, Matt Scott.
Hey,
Good to see you.
I'm great. How are you guys? Thanks so much for having me.
Of course.
Good to see
Thanks
you.
for
Thanks
coming.
for being here. Do you want to introduce yourself to our guests?
Oh, goodness. Sure.
The little 2-minute resume.
My name is Matt Scott. I own Omega Audio Video in Ontario, Canada. Been in AV officially. Started my business in 01, fresh out of high school, and primarily worked in the house of worship space. Did that till the US broke the economy in 07, 08, and came back home and kind of did some residential for a couple of years, and then discovered this wonderful world of, at the time, Infocom and now Avixa, and met people like Kelly and David and a bunch of other cool AV tweeps, and got pretty heavily involved into the commercial, the SMB space. And now we still run a company, and we do residential, commercial, some house of worship, as well as some IT. So it's a fun little world that I seem to play in these days.
Yeah, it seems like most of most of the integrators that we talk to, there's definitely some who do all of it, but it seems like there's a lot of it who specialize. There are some who just do house of worship and some who are commercial. Yeah. Actually, we thought you were commercial, and we were chatting before the show started. You're about 30%. And Kelly and I just
other way
had
around.
Yeah, no, Resi. Resi's typically around 30% of what we do, and the rest is mostly corporate and traditional commercial. Yeah. And that commercial breaks up into some dedicated IT as well as house of worship, and mostly SMB stuff.
Yeah, we thought you were
too crazy.
Like 90% residential, and it turns out that's just your little
this
bit
year.
Of everything.
This year we have been.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
COVID is really
the world has been.
Yeah, COVID has really trashed our commercial market up here in Ontario, because we've been pretty much shut down for 16 months, and no one's in an office, so that has really limited that. But our IT space has still been doing really well and keeping us quite busy in that, and of course, Resi has been good.
Has the nature of residential, and I would think that it's completely flipped. When I thought of residential, if you told me residential AV 2 years ago, I would say, oh, hooking up home theater systems, surround sound, Bluetooth, maybe video system in the kitchen to talk to grandma while you're cooking, those kind of things. Yep. And now when you say residential, I think, oh, home office studios. Everyone wants a better webcam. Everyone wants a better microphone. Everyone wants lighting. Is it as dramatic as I'm thinking it is, or has it been more of a slight shift?
It's been a slight shift. And again, my experience in Canada has been, and where I am in Canada has been different compared to some of the major markets in Canada, and definitely the major markets in the US. Home theater, again, this year, the last year and a half, has been massive because people haven't been able to go anywhere. So they're putting money into their home. They're realizing that, that 50-inch TV for the family of 5 or 6 doesn't always cut it for movie night. So that has taken a huge upkick. The outdoor space movement has been gigantic, even up here where, right now it's 62 degrees outside because it's July, and why would it be hot? Last week was 95. So, it's just it's a mess. Yeah. But outdoor space is still huge. We are finding, and more of our new customers, they're not necessarily coming to us for theaters, and that's not really one of our specialties anyways, but we find a lot of our new customers are coming to us mainly, and again, in the past year and a half, for network and for essentially home
Oh,
IT, because that cable company modem, it can't handle, 3 kids either schooling from home or playing,
Right.
Roblox or whatever the heck the kids are playing these days, as well as mom and dad, trading stocks or running, Zoom calls all day long. So that's kind of where a lot of those calls end up starting. And then it morphs into, hey, could you look at our basement media? Could we put a TV here? Could we do audio here? Um, the pandemic, one of the bright sides, if you will, of the pandemic has been that people have invested a whole lot more money back into their home.
Yep.
And on the kind of flip side, from the commercial standpoint, you had a fair number of people who had to come home, didn't have dedicated office space, didn't have dedicated solutions for that. And it hasn't been the boom that I thought it would be. I kind of expected that, we would be selling PTZ cams and green screens, which you can see,
Right.
and lighting rigs to all kinds of professionals, and especially our corporate clients who have all, again, gone home. We did from the IT side, making sure that they had solid connections and their bandwidth was up to par. Um, no one has really made the huge investment into their home office yet.
hmm.
And I think that's a bit of a debate over who's going to pay for that and where's that going to come from and
Yes.
how long is it going to last?
Right.
Because, you know, there's countless studies out about how everyone is going to, continue to work from home.
Mhm.
There's an equal number of reports out saying everyone's going to get their butts back to the office. I
Mhm.
don't think that the general consumer, and definitely not the general office worker, is willing to put more than, a couple $100 into a webcam. And worse, even if they do, they don't really know what to do with it per se.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's, again, I thought it was going to be a big boom to our business and we're going to add this other little vertical of like dedicated home office. Um, it kind of did, but it wasn't anything to, get super excited about on the P&L.
I've been
But
disappointed by that. I've
yeah,
heard
me
some
too.
stories there. Well, yeah, but there are definitely some big companies out there that have said we're giving all of our workers an allowance of whatever $2,000 to build a home office. That has happened,
Yeah.
but I haven't heard a lot of it. I don't think a lot of the CEOs are getting it. I think the home workers are getting it. They're saying, hey, when I do a Zoom meeting, everyone else looks better because they're well lit,
Yep.
or
Right.
whatever, and I look like a schlub. I want to look good, and if I had an employee who was making even just one video call a week that could be $1,000 sale, I would
Yeah,
spend
you'd want them looking
5,000.
good.
I would say here's $5,000 home studio.
I think the hard thing is that in a lot of metros, people don't have that dedicated space, right?
Mhm.
So they're sitting, like, I've been on countless calls with high level people at a variety of companies, and I'm surprised at how many are doing it in their bedroom
Mhm.
Yeah,
because they just don't have, you know, if you're in Manhattan, do you have a 3-bedroom home or condo so
Right.
that you have a spare room that can be your dedicated office? Maybe, but not likely. I've
no,
got enough friends there. If you're in California, again, maybe. If you're in the middle of nowhere, sure, right? Buy a 4-bedroom house for 200,000. But that's been the big push that we found, or the big holdback, is people don't have the dedicated space, and they
yeah,
don't want their bedroom or their dining room to look like a production studio. Like, I'm in my basement office right now at the house, and I've got 3 lights and a 60-inch monitor that I'm looking at and a PTZ camera and a green screen behind me. It's a very interesting look when I have someone who's not my wife come down into the office for a second. They're like, what are you doing?
yeah, yeah. My
Yeah,
my
I
office looks weird now.
exactly. Yeah, your office becomes very interesting. The other side of it too, though, that I think we kind of forget, is just because a company gives employees an allowance, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to get that same result. If I give both of you $1,000 to go buy something, Kelly might spend $200 on a webcam and $500 on the green screen on a track that she can roll down and roll back up. You might spend $800 on little handy cam that you can USB in and spend nothing on lighting. And when you
That's-
guys get home and set it up,
We get different
especially if
results.
you're not really sure what you're doing, you're going to get a dramatically different result. And I think that's part of it. But I also think that most CEOs and most, people who are holding the checkbooks, they don't know where this is going to go.
Yeah. They don't want to
And
spend a
then
lot of
there's
money now because what
If
if
you're
the
already
pandemic
having a hard
ends?
time, if you're already having a rough time keeping employees, but B, keeping your P&Ls where you want them, it's hard to go to even 100 employees and say, hey, we're going to give you all, even if we buy them, are you going to go buy 200 webcams?
I
Because
love the
half of those,
idea.
half of them are going to go home and sit in a desk. They're never going to get pulled out.
You don't want to
Yeah.
give them to people who may or may not, but people who are meeting all day, your salespeople, the people who are going to be
Mhm.
on video. I think, and you brought up a good point. You give them money, what are they going to do with it? I love the idea of a kit. Here's your home studio kit. It comes in a box. You open it up with a crowbar, and inside is the right kind of lights, the right kind of
How big
camera.
of a box are you sending them that they need a crowbar?
Oh, there's lights and stuff in it, and all
your
sorts of
man
stuff.
crate.
That's what made me think of it. Kelly introduced me recently to something called Man Crate. And if you look it up, it's this very testosterone-filled website with all these gifts for dudes. And they come.
But they're cool.
But they're really
gifts.
cool. They're really
Are
cool.
you sending me one, Kelly?
I will. They're
Okay.
amazing.
They're really good. It's like, it's like, I don't know, kits for making, manly breakfast, and it comes with the pans and the egg, not the eggs probably, but the different spices and stuff. And they come with a crowbar because it's very manly to open the crate with a crowbar.
Of course.
So
It's funny that you brought up the kit side though. We did a consult probably 3 years ago with a pretty large vendor who they don't sell into our space, but they sell into the IT space. And they're a huge supplier in the datacom space. We had a consult. We were working on streamlining their remote conferencing with all of their offices across the globe. And there was this conversation of, we have employees that are working from home a little bit. How do we help them? How do we help the employees that are doing calls that can't go into a conference room? They have to do them at their desks. And right now they're just using a handset, and it's annoying. And so we worked out this whole plan and this whole kit so that they had a choice of, 3 different styles of headsets, 2 cameras, and 3 different like pull-up banner screens, essentially, so that they could do a green screen if they wanted. They could do one with just the company logo, and they could do just like a weird off regular background thing, so that if they were somewhere where they couldn't have a whole lot of privacy, they could just pop that up and do their thing. And we built this whole program out for them. They were going to supply the majority of it because of what they do. Their employees just didn't really care.
Oh.
It was available and it was included, and all they had to do was fill out the little form and give it to their IT team lead.
They didn't sell it to the team.
They didn't sell it to the team, and the team didn't really get overly enthusiastic about it. They just viewed it as more crap that they had to have either on their desk or that they had to take home. And I've been meaning to follow up with them to see if that's changed.
I think what would change is if one or 2 people took the kit,
started it,
put it together, and then they're in meetings looking better than everyone else.
Well, and I think that's the big thing. And it's one of the things that on one hand, I really hate about virtual backgrounds in general is I've been in countless meetings and there's somebody who's like changing their back, like, and it's not a fun conversation. It's a business meeting. We're talking, about usually spending a whole lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And they're sitting there and they're going between, Spaceballs and, Lord of the Ring and all this other goofy stuff.
I love the crazy backgrounds, but when we're talking business, don't switch them.
That's what I mean.
You could have a funny background during a business meeting, but leave it.
Exactly.
And you know what?
Don't goof around.
Don't do the really. I have Muppets. I don't put the Muppets behind me when I'm talking a sale. Okay, when I'm talking a sale, I'm in my office background.
Yeah.
Speaking of backgrounds, let's switch. I love the.
Let's change them all.
Yeah.
This is how it should be.
It's nice to change it once in a while. Here we go. See, we're not all resi. We're business. We're boardroom.
And it's a different. It depends on the environment, right? But I think that's the big takeaway that we're finding with most of our office employees who are working from home and our corporate employees that are trying to figure out what they're doing when they come back, is that balance of everything has been so kind of unprofessional the last little bit
Mhm.
that they're really having a hard time figuring that out. And I believe gone are the days that you can have an employee on a call that doesn't actually look like they are just sitting across from you. We're well beyond letting some of that stuff go.
Yeah, and some of it's good to let go. I mean, I never would have done a podcast on a t-shirt 2 years ago, you know, but I don't think it takes away from the podcast. I'm more comfortable. The conversation's the same. I think that's okay.
Now I feel like I should have had a tie on just to
just to counteract it.
It is, yeah, that aspect of it is definitely
But
weirder. Like,
but too
everything's
casual
gotten
is no good.
so much
Well,
more lax.
I think it's that weird side of like when you have, and I view it a lot from obviously the supplier side, right? If I'm dealing with my clientele,
Yes.
In the resi space, we get to know our clients really well. In the commercial space, we know their business well. We don't always know them well. And it's always interesting to be like, what's on your bookshelf back there? That's interesting. Okay. And every now and again you have that like, so
They
is
are
that
people.
is that curated for me or whoever else is on?
Right.
Is that actually like, I don't know. It's just such a, you're letting a lot of people into your space these
Mhm.
days, which
Your personal space.
well, and that's what I mean. Like, it's very weird. And I try not to ever like focus on stuff if I'm on a call with somebody and they're in their bedroom. I don't want to look. I don't want to see what's on your night.
It feels like an
stand.
invasion a little bit.
It does. And
But that's one of the things I love about virtual backgrounds. What really sold me on virtual backgrounds, because when they first came out, they weren't that good. You could see the effects and is it distracting? There was a big debate: is it too distracting? But I heard from teachers, and they said that they had some students, and everyone was working from home or was going to school from home because of the pandemic, and they had some. I think Kelly's heard me told this like 5 times. But they had some students who didn't have all the nice toys behind them in their bedroom, and they were maybe embarrassed about it. And with a virtual background, no one. And the opposite, they might have some kids who had all the amazing toys behind them, and they don't want everyone to know that because it's not a good look. Well, virtual backgrounds, everyone was on the same page, same thing.
Yeah, that's the same premise for school uniforms. Is it levels the playing field, right? You don't have those kids that show up in a Gucci t-shirt at 7 because kids who are 7 need Gucci t-shirts. Sorry if I went out there a little bit.
No, that's all good. Yeah, but the backgrounds
backgrounds are the same thing. It levels that playing field. And I know that was the big thing that we had pitched, that company that we had talked to about, was if you give them a step and repeat pull up, it doesn't matter if they're in their bedroom, if they're in their basement, if they're on their deck. They look professional. They can act professional, and it doesn't matter what is going on in their life. You're leveling the playing field. You're making that nice and succinct across the board, which was a great thing.
Now you can just reminds me of one of the funniest commercials. God, this is way back in the day when Blue Jeans was a new company in the space.
Oh gosh.
So going way back now, this is still when Zoom was a baby. And before virtual backgrounds were anywhere, no one was doing virtual backgrounds yet. Blue Jeans had a commercial. They had a guy, he made a cardboard box that he put himself in and made it look like an office behind him. And he was running to work because he was late to work. So he's running to work with this box and the camera set up so it looks like he's sitting at his office already. And it was hysterical. But
that's fantastic. Now
it's so much easier. You don't need the cardboard box. You just do the virtual background.
No, and I know we have a couple of residential clients, and we've gone in and had professional photos taken of their office, and they use that when they're at home. And we have one who actually
I've seen that. Yeah,
he did a screen print of he's a CEO, and he did a screen print on, actually, I think we might have had Rose Brand in New York do it. But they literally printed on a scrim, and it just got tacked up on his wall in his office at home, and it looks identical to him being in his office.
That's so cool.
Wonderful.
That's perfect.
I never thought about that though. Like, yeah, how truly invasive it is.
It's creepy.
Like to see someone's home. Yeah. Now I don't
did-
want to. Now I need to have a virtual background forever.
Well, and I use one 90% of the time. But I also have a couple of things on the shelf behind me, and some speakers and a record player and other crap like that. And I did a podcast quite a while ago, and it was before I went to the PTZ camera. So I had just a regular webcam in front, and you could see the bookshelf that's hiding back over here. And one of the gentlemen he was on, he was like, "Oh, I got to see what's on your bookcase now." And he's all, getting into his screen.
He's all leaning in.
Yeah. And I'm like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Well, I want to see what you're reading." And I'm like, "Well, I'll happily tell you. You don't have to make it weird." And so I reach over and I go through it. And in that sense, it was great because we ended up discovering that we both have this fascination with World War II. So we started talking that, and it was a side of him that I had just never met. We never would have had that conversation if he hadn't have seen my bookshelf.
Kelly, just so you know, there's something that happens to men when we get to a certain age. For a 5 to 10 year period, we become obsessed with World War II. We just can't.
Oh, you don't have to tell me.
It's not a 5-year period, my friend. It's as soon as I could read.
It's not just dudes. I listen to World War II stuff all the time.
See, that's why we get along so well, Kelly.
I thought it was a middle-aged guy thing. We get to a certain age, and all of a sudden, it's like, wait a minute, what happened in 1941? Was that in July? That was in June, right? How many troops were sent to this location? Oh my God.
Oh my God.
And they used a pincer movement.
Yes.
Interesting.
Oh, I don't know that stuff. I read a lot of World War II fiction, and I love Band of Brothers and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
That stuff. I'm actually listening to a World War II fiction that's based on a true story, but yes.
Interesting. You're gonna have to send me a link to something, because I don't read much World War II fiction, but I would.
I'm like a historical fiction junkie.
I like it.
Because I don't read a lot of nonfiction, but I can learn a lot of stuff from the fiction where there's actually a story.
Right.
Yeah, it's all based on real stories, because the reality is so much weirder than anything we can come up with.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah. It was a crazy time. But maybe not a good time.
No.
But a crazy time.
but the good guys won. That's what matters at the end.
Yes.
And
I'm not going to quote my favorite Band of Brothers line. It doesn't. It works well in person. It's not great.
Not on video.
No. Sorry.
Everything.
So if you're interested, send me a tweet and I'll let you know.
Do you know in the first Star Wars movie, the spaceship fighters, they were scene for scene reenactments from an old World War II movie, the dogfight? Yeah.
Yeah.
What's his name? George Lucas was a huge World War II movie fan.
Huge.
They had the best dogfights. They really did.
Yeah.
Because it was those. We are so off topic. This is awesome.
I know.
It's because
maybe we should head to the
planes.
bar.
The planes were so slow, right? So it really forced the aviators to be incredibly creative, right? Whereas now missiles and everything else.
Oh yeah, the other guy's dead.
I'm not saying it's easy, but it's different, right?
Mm-hmm.
But back then, man, stuff was nuts.
It was crazy.
Absolutely nuts.
And now we play video games to reenact. Have you ever played the World War II video games, like the fighter plane games? I tried the fighter plane one. It was so realistic. It was crazy.
Yeah. I played an early, and I have a gaming system. I couldn't tell you last time it was turned on. I played one of the Call of Duties that was a World War II one.
Oh.
But again, that was good. That's going back. It's going back a while.
That's maybe a dude thing.
Video games, yeah.
It's I do some other stuff in that vein, and it's just totally different. So that was the thing that kind of threw me off those, was that it's cool, but it's not, if you think you're doing that and that's how it works in real life, not so much.
No.
But
yeah, it's definitely it's getting better, but it's a male environment. Women gamers get a hard time. A lot of times, you're in a video game and they're all on voice chats, they're all talking to each other, and as soon as you hear a female voice, the toxicity comes out. Everyone's like, "Oh, there's a girl in the chat." Ooh. And a lot of times people fake being girls online to get favors from guys in games. Give me all your gold. Yeah. In World of Warcraft, when someone said they were a girl, that stands for GIRL, guy in real life.
Oh my God.
Oh, that's interesting.
I used to be a lot more. Oh no, I don't know. I used to be differently nerdy. I was gonna say I used to be a lot more nerdy, but I can't be more nerdy. I used to be differently nerdy.
Yeah,
I
I
like
I
it.
never really got into the online gaming side. It just wasn't my thing. And the first couple times I did it, and again, this is going way back. This is probably like Xbox 360, way back. And just listening to some of the, most likely 8 to 12-year-old boys, it was like, yep, no, that's enough for me. I'm out. I'm out.
I did get
Not
one good
not my
experience
jam.
from it, because most of gaming was like you said, you jump into a game and there's these random 12-year-old boys in chat and they're all being sexist and toxic and horrible. And it's like, I don't need that. But when I played World of Warcraft, I was in a guild, is what they call it. It's a team or whatever.
Of course.
And we would meet every week and work on things together. You don't just go fight monsters. You had to figure it out. You three have to
Right.
stand here. And in phase 2, when he starts breathing the fire, you have to take out your shields and we'll go over there. It was coordination.
I am learning a lot.
In those days, the raids were
David's
40
part
people.
of a guild.
Not anymore. Not anymore. I'm not in my guild anymore. It was a good guild. It was called Tabula Rasa, which is like Latin for blank slate, I think. Because starting fresh, it was a new guild. But I always called it Red Table because Tabula Rasa. I'm like, oh, that means red table, right? I was like, no, it's not
Oh
what
my
it means.
God.
But it was like 40 people all sitting all over the world
From
at our
around the
computers.
world.
Going into Molten Core was the name of the dungeon. And, everyone having their roles. There's healers and there's protectors and there's fighters. And
What were you?
I was a fighter. I had knives. I was really stabby. I would stab really good. I'd get behind the monster and stab him in the ankle. I'd stab him in the ankles while the monster's paying attention to other things. But I learned
That's
about
awesome.
managing groups and coordinating people. Because in business before it was before I was in this industry. I was an attorney and I just kind of did my own thing. And in this business, I'm always working with other people. I'm working on teams, creating content, and I learned how to work with people and manage people and get people to do things your way without being a jerk about it. From this guild, eventually I became an officer in the guild, and I was had a job. I was running
Did
things.
you have a badge?
I didn't have a badge. Oh wait, no, actually, I think we did. I think in
Did you
chat,
get paid?
I didn't get paid. But in chat, when I would type something, a little symbol would come next to my name because I was a guild officer.
All right.
And there were some
are a
hard
nerd.
things. Okay, this is the nerdiest part.
I'm scared.
It gets nerdier.
Oh my God, I'm about to blow your minds. Okay, there's 40 people in a raid. You kill the monster.
Mhm.
He drops the gold sword of awesomeness. 6 people say, 12 people say, I want that. Who gets it?
The top officer? I don't know.
Oh, you're just going to give it to yourself, top officer? I'm leaving this guild. So they had to come up with systems.
Interesting.
And they came up with all of these systems. The first big system was called DKP, which stood for Dragon Kill Points. And the way it was set up was every hour that you're in the raid, you get a point. Every raid that you show up for, you get 10 points. Every boss that you're there for, every monster that you kill, you get a certain amount of points. And when it's time for the sword drops, I'll spend 100 of my points on it. I'll spend 110 of my points on it. Okay, you get it. And then you waste up your points.
Did you determine the point system or was this part of the game?
We researched. There's like 30 different systems of points. There's
So this
DKP
is
is
like
the most
a-
famous one. This is
like
a thing within a thing within a thing.
It's
like a government.
Did you do this while you were practicing law?
Yes.
Did this lead to you retiring from law?
It didn't help. It didn't help.
Oh my God.
But it was so nerdy. We had spreadsheets. It got so complicated. And the thing is, any system you use, there's no fair system. Because you could always say,
Right.
oh, what if we use this system? Okay, if you use that system, there could be a scenario where someone just shows up that day and gets the best item. If this happens, there was always some way that it broke. There's no fair system, and people spend hours and hours and hours arguing over which system to use, how to run the system, how many points should things be worth.
That just sounds so.
So
over-
nerdy.
That's why I gave up gaming.
So much math, so many spreadsheets, so much gaming, and you think it's all just, I'm an elf and I have a bow and arrow. No, it's math. Gaming is math.
Wow.
We're so far off topic.
Okay, so that's why I don't play video games.
I loved it though. I missed it.
Yeah, I don't know. I never got that heavy into any of it.
You know, okay, I've been making fun of it, but I got to tell you, working together as a team and accomplishing anything is just an amazing feeling. Whether
Yeah.
it's you're working with your team at work and you make that big sale, or better than making the big sale, you whatever you sold, you put it together and you deliver it. The client says, "I love this." Oh my God, what a feeling! And sometimes in gaming, you get that feeling. There was the final big monster of Molten Core was this 30-story tall fire beast called Ragnaros, and it took us literally months to kill him. We would go back every week and try, and he would kill us, and we would learn something from it and try different things. And
Right.
it was way too hard. We weren't very good. But wow, when we finally killed him, the screaming you heard of 40 people on voice going, "Oh my God, we did it! We did it!" It was such a good feeling. No one could sleep that night. It was so good.
And then you had a virtual pizza party.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah. We all stood around and took pictures. We all posed our little
Seriously?
Yeah, I was a little gnome. I had my little gnome flexing. You type flex and your little gnome does this, and we took a bunch of pictures in front of
Oh
the
my
dead
God.
corpse of the fire monster.
That's awesome.
Matt, he did get nerdier. He did.
He got really nerdy. Hey, it's to each their own. I get
Right.
it.
No,
I-
never.
I mean,
all
if
nerd
I have to, I can
all
relate it
kinds
to
of
the
things.
conversation because it really was the earliest example of remote working. Because before
Yeah.
then, you couldn't do remote work with your boss. Your boss says you got to be here 9 to 5, and you can't
Right.
accomplish anything over audio. Forget about video. That was over audio. We accomplished very complicated things over audio conferencing. We were on voice. It was called, what was it called? VoiceCon. There was some program we all used that wasn't very lucrative. Anyone outside the industry never heard of it. It was called like Voice Connect or something like that. And we got things done. We were able to collaborate. And
That's the
I always,
first kind of team building, huh?
it really was. It was virtual team building. So when the pandemic hit and everyone's saying, "Will we be able to collaborate and get things done remotely?" I'm like, World of Warcraft players have been doing it for 10 years.
Those nerds, they paved the way.
They paved the way. And if those nerds can do it, us professional business people can do it, and we did, right? We really did it last year.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I think that the big benefit of all of this has been that hopefully it's helped most people realize what the potential is out there.
hmm
It brought a lot of our industry into the forefront, for good or bad. It still leaves a lot of opportunity, but it really made that concept of you don't have to be in a cubicle every
Yeah.
day to do
Mhm.
your job. Now, you might need to, 4 days a week, but every meeting does not have to be I get on a plane to fly somewhere to
Right.
shake your hand and sign a contract.
Yeah.
And like I know my wife was in real estate before we had kids. And what always boggled my mind is she would have to drive around to get a handwritten signature on a purchase. And it'd be like, you can't just email that. No, they don't. It's not secure enough. I'm like, really?
Interesting.
Are you sure? And it took
What a
a
waste of
couple
time.
years. Oh, like
Waste
it
of
wasn't
gas.
up until 2 or 3 years ago that they actually allowed you to
DocuSign.
email something. Yeah.
I love
and sign it.
DocuSign.
You could fax it, but you couldn't email it. And it's like, what? How is that industry so far behind? Like,
That's
When's the
so
last time someone asked you to fax something to them?
I got it last week, actually.
Did you say
And
what?
I did. That's how I feel with voicemail, for heaven's sakes, let alone fax.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I have a client and he sent me, he's notorious for this, but he'll call me and for whatever reason I won't be able to get it. He'll leave a voicemail, then he'll send me a text and be like, "Hey, I left you a voicemail. Did you check it?" I'm like, "No, I'm not. I'm never checking it." And my personal voicemail literally states, "Do not leave a voicemail," because it does
Oh.
not get checked.
I'm not going to check it. Send me a text.
We do. Yeah,
That's
we do
a
not.
great idea.
They still do it,
Yeah.
but in theory they don't.
I love that.
Yeah, do that.
I'm doing that this afternoon.
When
And
someone
then,
calls
like-
me, I see the phone ring. I just open up email and say, sorry, I missed your call, but what did you want to talk about? Like as it's ringing, I'll do that sometimes. Oh, so sorry. I was in a meeting. I couldn't answer the phone.
See, I'll text people back.
Funny.
I'll text
I'll
them and
text
be
back.
like, hey, sorry, I'm tied up at the moment. What's up?
I'm with
But
you.
again, that's that. And I would say that's the negative thing that's come out of this is there used to be this, understanding that, if I email Kelly and it's 6:00 at night, I don't expect Kelly to see it until tomorrow morning at 9 when she goes to the office. And then hopefully I'll get a response by noon.
Mhm.
Right? Because I know she's got a stack. Now it's that, like, I have clients, and this is one of my frustrations with residential. I have a ton of residential clients who will text me, call me, whatever, 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night. It's like, no, I'm never taking this phone call.
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't
9
care what
o'clock
you're
in the
doing.
morning, you'll see it.
I have that too with some of my clients and former clients, and it's like, I'm not going to respond to you.
No.
Like it's 9 o'clock.
Well, and there are certain, like everyone, we've worked projects where 9 o'clock, you do need to take that call. But the majority of the time, you never need to take that call. No one ever needs to take that call. They don't need you that badly.
Yeah, there's totally circumstances where it's legit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're working on something or something blows up or whatever, like I get that. It's just like, oh, can you take a look at this logo or something? Yeah. It's like, no, stop that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is this getting printed tonight?
Like,
do you have a printer on standby? Stop it.
I think the assumption should be that, like, because we're on a 24-hour cycle now. We're working at home.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm in a chat with a text chat, a Zoom chat, or no, we're in Discord chat together with Kelly. If I happen to be up at 2 a.m. and think of something, I don't want to forget it. I might put it in there, but it's like, oh my God, don't look at this until the morning. Don't answer now.
Right.
If I type something to you at midnight and I saw a response, I'd be like, oh my God, no, did I wake you up? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, that was for later.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was even talking to a friend of mine, and he has a team of, I think, like 12 people or something. And he's like, I had to stop myself from like emailing my team, because he's like, then it makes them feel like they need to respond after hours. And he's like, I don't want that. He's like, but it's just, you think of something or whatever. He's like, so I had to make sure that I didn't do it outside of hours so that they didn't feel like obligated to respond.
So he'll just let it sit in his outbox until the morning and then send it or something?
I think so.
Or delay send it, because if you're using Outlook or something, you can, send this at 8 a.m., which works reasonably well. But it's also that thing of, I'll get an email from a client and I won't see it till I can't sleep at, 1 a.m. and I'll see it. So I'll sit there in bed and because I'm stupid, I'll send a reply, and then, half the time they're awake. So they'll send one back and be like, oh, awesome, let's chat. I'm like,
oh no.
It's 1 in the morning. No.
Oh,
stop it.
Lord, that sounds awful.
It's bad. Yeah, it's really bad. But then there's also that, like we do a lot of house of worship stuff. And when we consult on that, it is not uncommon for me to be in my own church dealing with an issue at our church and get an emergency text or a call from one of our clients saying, hey, we're starting in 10 minutes and this isn't working. Can you help us walk through how to fix this?
I feel like that's legit though.
It's totally legit, but it's that weird, there are those situations and there are those times where that's hard to do. I've successfully, directed a service at our church while supporting another church and remoting into their service to try and help them get their issue solved.
So you're like a superhero.
No. But there are those times of you just kind of have to suck it up too, right? Yeah. It's just hoping that your clients get that and they understand when they're being ridiculous and when they're not. And depending on where you are in your company, sometimes you can be the guy to say, hey, you're being ridiculous, I'm not getting back to you right now.
And it's harder now that we have this mixed life where we're, for me, I'm working at home. So it's, when I was 9 to 5, it was easy. if you get me between 9 and 5, I'm yours. If you call me after 5, you're going to leave a message, and I'm going to check at 9 in the morning. I am 9 to 5. Now I'm not. So there's this, what is my time? What is my client's time? Today I had a little issue. I had a meeting this morning, which with Infocom, who I want to be doing some things with and helping out, and it became a great conversation. And I had physical therapy, and my shoulder hurts. So I'm trying to get it fixed up so I can play guitar more. And I'm like, do I cut the meeting short, or do I be a little late for physical therapy? And it's a personal choice. And I said, you know what? My physical therapist is cool. She'll understand. And I kept the business meeting going until it was ready to end. I didn't rush it. And I let it cut into my personal. But I might have made the balance the other way. If the meeting wasn't feeling so hot, I would have said, hey, you know what? I got to cut this early. I got a physical therapist appointment to go to.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I definitely work way more than I used to, for sure. But like you said, it's like, I can also take an hour off or 2 in the afternoon and go for a run. Mm-hmm. So it is balancing, but it's hard.
It is a really hard balance. And I know, I've worked at home way more than I ever have in the past. And I've also, I've only had kids for 6 years. So that's also new too. But it is one of those things where I've taken way too many phone calls when I should be having dinner with the family. I've also, and my wife will remind me of this all the time when I'm griping about how much I work. I never missed a doctor's appointment when she was pregnant with any of our 3 kids. And, I know that my position is not the same as everybody else's, where I own my own company for almost 20 years now. I do love the flexibility of being able to do what I want. I also hate that I can't pass the buck up any further. If there's a problem at 11 o'clock at night, I am the one who gets to roll to an office or somebody's house to fix that a lot of times. But it is a balance. And, even before this call, I had I was getting text from a client this morning about some product and if we can help them. I'm like, yeah, I can. I'll give you a call this afternoon. Right now I'm building a Lego house with my 3 kids because my wife is at the dentist. And that was my morning, was watching Wimbledon and playing with Lego.
That's cool.
Which doesn't sound like a typical, work day, but it's just how it kind of flushed out today.
It sounds like a good day.
It works.
I'll never turn down Lego. I don't care. I'll never
Legos.
turn down Lego. Lego's amazing. But yeah, I think that work-life balance thing is going to be the biggest thing that companies and employees are going to have to fight for the foreseeable future, because we've all had a taste, and we've all seen what, where the pluses and the, big minuses are there.
Yeah.
And the employers have seen that too.
Commuting sucks. Commuting there's no, but I like to no. There's nothing good about commuting. Whatever. Oh, but I listened to my audiobook. You could listen to it sometime else. You don't need.
I was literally just going to respond with that.
I will say,
there are ways to lessen the pain, but it's still pain.
Yeah, I have a fairly. It's not a rule, like set in stone rule, but typically, if I'm going from site to site, I do not take phone calls unless I want to make the phone call. I will never make a phone call that I don't feel like making or taking if I'm driving.
Right.
And I do that because that is the only time I get where it's either quiet or loud, depending on what I'm listening to.
Yeah.
But where nobody bugs me. And every minute or every meeting I'm in, as I'm just getting text right now, someone's always trying to get me for something. And I talk to a lot of people, and they're of that mindset of, I hate my commute, and I don't really have a commute, so I can't fully get it. My wife was from upstate New York, and we had a ton of friends that commuted into the city and took the 6 a.m. train. And
I lived in New Jersey and worked in New York for a while, so I did the commute.
Yeah, so you get the train. Yep. I can't imagine doing that. We have people that live in London, where I live, who commute at least an hour and a half into Toronto to work every day. And it's like, are you out of your mind? I don't think you could pay me enough to do that.
No way.
Oh my God. I was 19 years old in the early 90s making $18 an hour because I was working in Manhattan. It was crazy. I was so rich. I was the richest kid I knew. Oh my God. Drinks on me.
Gonna pick up the tab for our sushi and
But it's one of those things. Are you going to do that when you're 55
yeah, I think
for the
that's
same
big-
money?
No, I can only do it
Right?
for a year as a kid. It was hard. Just
Yeah.
my legs started to hurt from having my foot on the brake pedal sitting on the Jersey Turnpike. Just like having my foot at the same angle, my knee started acting up. It was like bad for me physically, the driving.
I had a buddy who was a trader, and he took us down one time when I was down there visiting, and we went down in the afternoon, and we're driving in, and I turned to him, and I'm like, hey, so when do you normally go down? Like, what's your normal day, your trading day look like? He's like, well, I usually leave the house at like 3. I'm like, what? The floor doesn't open till 9. He's like, yeah, but if I leave at 3, I just drive straight in.
Yeah.
And and then I go to the
It's
gym.
a 1 hour drive instead of a 3 hour drive.
Exactly. And he's like, and then I leave by, 2. I'm like, well, the floor's not even closed yet. He's like, yeah, nothing really happens in the afternoon usually. So it's no big deal. I'm like, okay. And he was
messed up.
He was a very good trader. But that concept just always boggled my mind until I met a couple day traders who trade remote. And then I started, because we did some work for them and help build their systems at their homes. I happened to call my floor trader friend. I was like, hey, why don't you do this? He's like, well, the delay, all these other factors. He's like, man, honestly, I just like it. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And I would talk to the day trader guys and say, why do you do it? Why don't you go, why aren't you in Toronto and trading on the TSX? It's like, I don't like the commute. I don't like the people. It's easier. And that was the first time that I kind of realized that there just are certain people that do really well in an office.
Yeah.
Or in whatever different on-site environment.
Mhm.
And there's people who work great at home. And
it's a personality type thing.
It is. It really is.
It definitely is.
And I think that is, that's one of those sides that education has finally understood that there are 3 types of learners, and they've learned to some degree. It doesn't happen in every school, but they've learned how to kind of realize how kids learn and try to tailor it so that the kids who learn in whichever way they learn have an opportunity to learn that way, because they'll learn well. We've forgotten that when people get into their work life, that there are people who just want to show up and do whatever respectfully menial tasks they do. There are people who can't sit still and they have to move. And whether it's, they need to work in a trade or they need to do something where they're just moving.
Can't put all people in the same size cubicle, which is what we've been doing.
No, you can't.
Right, 100 cubicles, everyone goes in, they're all gray.
Yep.
People are different.
It's really, really bad. And I'm hoping that this has given an opportunity to see that a little bit. And to some degree, even help people realize and help them realize what they want to do and how they want to do it.
I think the people are getting it, but I think the bosses are just starting to get it. And when the bosses get it, that's when it'll happen.
That's the thing.
I think it'll change when they actually show back up, right? Because you'll have people who will never show back up.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that I hear quitting that have to go back into the office.
Yep.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's sustainable or if it's just that they realize that they don't like that job.
Oh, it could be that too. I didn't even think about that.
Google's having huge issues. One of the Google, do you hear this morning? I heard one of the Google execs who's been really pushing that, no, everyone has to be in place. Remote work doesn't work. He bought himself a house in New Zealand. He's going to be working remotely. And everyone's like, you hypocrite. And he's like, well, no. What I'm doing is an experiment to see this and this. And it's like, come on. If you could be in New Zealand and I'm just writing code, I could be sitting in my house writing code.
So
I think it depends on the job too. If you're,
it does.
Of course.
If you're part of a team that's creating, content together, you need to be sitting in the room with them for some of it. But yeah, if you're writing, I do a lot of writing. I write just as good at this computer as I could at a computer in any office. There's no reason for me to drive 2 hours on the New Jersey Turnpike to sit at a different computer in front of a different keyboard and type.
I think it comes down to, and I got into this conversation yesterday. I think it was yesterday. That the concept that most people have a job where they can work, 3 hours a day sitting by the beach and accomplish what they need to accomplish. That's a fairy tale.
That
No
doesn't
one
work.
does that. I don't care what Tim Ferriss says. That does not work for 99.9% of the population.
Yeah.
Nope.
I deal with a lot of, we do some quick serve restaurants where we handle all their IT and technology and stuff. And we deal with their remote IT staff for like POS systems and stuff like that. None of those people work in an office ever. They are all remote. They are all at home. And they've always been at home. The 3 people that we use internally as subcontractors for coding networks, none of them work like at a firm in an office. They all work remote. And it's great because if I need them for 28 minutes, they bill me for 30 minutes. There's no commute time. There's no on-site. There's no parking. There's 28 minutes rounded to the nearest 15.
All you want is the work, and that's what you're getting.
That's all I want. Yep, that's all I want. That's all I care about.
interesting.
But the concept that my accountant, for example, is never in her office. So when I need to come in and sit down with her and go, hey, let's look over this, I kind of want her in the office. I want my lawyer in his office. I don't need them in the office all the time.
But when we need to meet,
But I
And
don't.
Get that?
and
it
it's-
depends.
Yeah, it does.
Depends on the need. It depends on the need,
There's
right?
also just a feeling about it. I did a virtual visit checkup with my doctor, and it was virtual, but she was at her office, and that made me. I like to see my doctor at her office with her degree behind her on the wall.
Yeah, the white coat on.
Yeah,
and
she had the white coat on. She was wearing her mask.
she's
talking
playing with
to
a
me on video.
stick.
She was
She's
wearing-
like,
Not in her bedroom.
The stethoscope. If she was talking to me from her kitchen table, I'd have been like, why am I letting some lady at her kitchen table tell me what medicines to take? You know what I mean?
and the other side though too is, who else is around the table?
Yeah.
So
There's
and
that too.
It just
I
needs
know
to
we're
feel.
live.
It needs to feel like a doctor's office, even if it's
yeah,
virtual.
it's. But
All
there-
right, you two. We need
Yes,
to wrap it
sorry.
up fairly shortly.
Oh, can I tell one quick funny story? Just about Legos.
it's not my show. Go for it.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. So okay.
It's
You
so
may-
weird being on this side of the mic every time.
You mentioned Legos. This has been on my mind. I thought this is so funny. And I usually steer very far away from politics on the show because I don't want to alienate anyone. Everyone has their politics. That's
I
fine.
do. I'll alienate. Who do you want to alienate? I'll get them all.
This is so funny.
Doesn't matter.
In.
So the FBI went to the house of one of the January 6th insurrectionists who was at the Capitol
Okay.
building to arrest them. And you know what they're trying, the ones who get arrested are saying, oh, I was just there for a rally and it got out of hand. I wasn't really planning on breaking into the Capitol. That just got out of control. I was just there just to be there. So they get to his house. He had a Lego set of the Capitol that he had just built because he was studying how to break into the Capitol. He built the Capitol so he know the whole leg, at least the
Based
Lego
off the
version.
Lego.
That's the, yeah,
Oh my
because if you
God.
assume the Lego, so you can see this large Lego thing, and they took it as evidence. They took his Legos.
They did not.
You know his
That's
lawyer is
amazing.
going to be like, that is an 8,364 set piece, and we expect every
piece,
single piece back.
every brick,
Thank you.
every brick. It was like they took my Legos.
That's amazing.
I thought that was
I
so funny.
would really hope that that's nowhere near accurate. Like I
The Lego
I think
set.
I
yeah,
think
the Lego set, because I know you can buy the White House set as well. The Taj Mahal, like
I think
I
it
would
looks
hope
good from
they're-
the outside, but I don't think it
Yeah.
would show like the secret tunnels underneath where the Congress people were escaping or anything like that.
That would be the best.
if that was in
Yeah,
the
but
Lego
we-
set.
Hold on, we learned all that from what was that?
God, my face hurts.
What was that movie? Where they're stealing the Declaration.
Oh, National Treasure.
National Treasure.
Yes.
Yeah, we learned that all from National Treasure. We know where
Yeah,
those
right.
tunnels are.
Absolutely. Without the Legos.
Yeah, we didn't need it. We're good.
Okay, are we ready for our final thoughts?
Yes.
you have one?
Final thoughts.
Okay,
Um,
here we go.
I do. I do.
Zooming into space, the smartest place in the universe, Wisdom Mountain. And sitting at the top of Wisdom Mountain, our very own Guru Kelly.
So today we are talking, which has nothing to do with the episode that we just did, is so I recently started doing these like circuit training classes, and they're really, really hard because I'm not very athletic and I've never done anything like that before. So anyways, I'm doing these like hardcore circuit training classes, which make me sweat a lot, you know, because it's like hard work. And we were discussing sweating like a pig. And then I was like, where does that come from? And I actually learned that pigs don't even sweat.
Oh.
They don't even have sweat glands.
How did they cool off?
They roll in mud, I guess.
Yeah, they do.
But yeah, so that's the final thought for the weekend. So I'll leave everyone with that.
So if we sweat like a pig, we're not sweating very good at all.
Yeah, you're not sweating at all.
Thank you, Kelly. And thank you, Matt, for joining us. And thank you to all of our millions. It says 1 under concurrent viewers. I think that's in millions. So we have 1 million concurrent
1M.
viewers now.
Yes, 1M.
And we will be back next week.
Thanks, guys.